one-stop shop for action movies, comic book movies, and the occasional horror movie reviews and rankings. And today I felt like ranking one of my personal favorite horror franchises, that being the Final Destination franchise. This is a franchise I kind of grew up alongside, and I have so many fond memories of it. And so let's get into it. Coming in last place, we have the Final Destination, the fourth movie in the franchise. This is one of the first horror movies I ever saw, and it is the first Final Destination movie I ever saw. And just a small personal anecdote: my sister let me watch this one night when our parents were out, and I was in late elementary, early middle school at the time, and I wasn't too familiar with horror movies. But she let me watch it as long as I didn't tell our parents. Of all things, I ended up having a nightmare about being sucked into a pool drain. And so our parents ended up finding out. And in recent years, I've gone to think of it as the Arrowverse Final Destination movie, because it stars Nick Zano, who plays Nate in Legends of Tomorrow, as well as Chantel Van Santen, who plays, in my opinion, the best Flash girlfriend, Patty Spivot, in Flash Season 2. But getting into this movie itself, I do think the acting and the characters are one of the weaker aspects of it. This movie focuses a lot on bringing elaborate kill scenes and less on story and characters. And it also doesn't bring anything new to the table, whereas the other sequels have something new to offer to the Final Destination equation. This one just kind of has the survivors die and the main character sees visions. Just very generic Final Destination plot. But one good thing about this movie is the fact that it is really fun to watch. It kind of has that so bad it's fun quality to it, which makes it a very rewatchable movie. I love revisiting it for that reason. But it is easily the worst Final Destination movie, in my humble opinion. Moving on to number 4, I have Final Destination 2. A lot of people consider this one of the best ones, and I can see why. I understand why. It has some of the best kill sequences and death sequences in the franchise. But the thing that really holds it back for me is the characters and the acting. I'm just not a big fan of a lot of them. You know, her friends, even though they don't last very long, they just kind of feel like these, I don't know, super bad, almost-esque characters that just want to get high, and that's it. And then the coke addict, as I'll call him, I'm not a big fan of that character either. One positive thing is it does add to the Final Destination equation by the concept of the last in line dying and maybe in breaking the chain. And this movie looks at it in a sacrificial way. And the one last thing that's kind of a nitpick, but for me personally, the ending doesn't feel like a Final Destination ending, because the main characters that survived are still alive. You know, the whole barbecue exploding thing, it kills like that one kid, but the other two main characters that survived are still alive. And Final Destination ending is supposed to kill the surviving members. And so that is one thing that personally holds it back for me. Moving on to the top 3, I am a big fan of all 3 of these movies, but you have to place them somewhere. So coming in at number 3 is Final Destination 3. And this is a movie that if I didn't rewatch them prior to doing this rankings, it probably would have been at number 2. But for whatever reason, this last rewatch, it didn't hit me the way I remembered it. But I still really enjoy it. It has probably the worst initiating disaster with the roller coasters. I think the concept is one of the best, but the execution I don't think is very well done. It probably has the worst collective kill scenes in the franchise, even though it does have one of my favorites, that being the tanning salon. But one thing that really elevates this particular movie is Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She gives, in my opinion, the best performance in the franchise, maybe aside from Tony Todd. But in terms of the main characters, I think she gives the best performance. And it does have my favorite batch of characters personally, and I think it's one of the best written as well. And I like how it explores kind of the second movie's idea of the last person in line dying to break the chain, but it kind of explores it more from a murderous standpoint with the McKinley character. And lastly, one thing I really do love about this film is how the beginning and end kind of call back to each other, because they're both rail car disasters. One takes place in a roller coaster, which you're on like these cars and they're on a rail, and the last one is on a subway train, which is also you're in a car thing on rails. I just love how they kind of call back to each other like that. And the runner-up at number 2 is 2000's Final Destination, the original movie, the one that kickstarted it all. I think this movie is groundbreaking because it brings in a very creative way to do kill scenes in a slasher. That's something we haven't seen since kind of the Nightmare franchise, but that had died out by this point in time. I think it does a really good job making you feel hopeless for the Alex character and making you root for him for that reason. And just how it kind of designs some of the deaths to not look like freak accidents, whether it's Todd's death looking like a suicide, or Miss Luton's death looking like a murder, or even the initiating plane sequence itself looking like a possible bombing. But one of the things that does hold it back is I just don't like the final act very well. I'm not a big fan of wires flailing about. But overall, I do really enjoy this movie. It is a personal favorite of mine that I love revisiting. And moving on to first place, the gold medal goes to Final Destination 5. This might be a somewhat controversial opinion, but I absolutely love this movie. And on top of that, is one of the first rated R movies I saw on the big screen. It was this and Scream 4. Those were the first two. They came out in the same year. I don't entirely remember which one came first, but this Final Destination 5 is the one that stuck with me more out of the two. One thing I do love about this movie, apart from the others, is it has this kind of action thriller vibe to it. Whether it's the bridge collapse scene at the beginning, or even when you get towards the end with Peter's character, and he kind of becomes this revenge-seeking villain. Also, I love the death scenes in this. The one that really sticks out to me personally is the LASIK surgery scene. On top of that, I actually a couple years ago had LASIK surgery done on my eyes, and the entire time I was laying on the table, I had this scene going through my mind, and I was absolutely terrified. It's definitely worth it, though. I think this is the first sequel that really utilizes and goes back to the original concept, where the initiating sequence, you could easily suspect foul play was involved. And I love how it incorporates the FBI element, which you haven't really seen since the original. And so there's just a lot of stuff that I think this goes back to. And then I love the concept of taking another person's life and taking their years. I think it adds a nice element and kind of a big dilemma for these characters to go through. And also, I just have to talk about this. I didn't know if before the movie this was common knowledge or not, but I absolutely loved the ending. Whether it was meant to be a twist or not, I personally didn't see it coming, and I just love it. And for all of these reasons are why I love this movie and are why it comes in at first place and takes that gold medal. Thanks for watching this video. If you've seen all the Final Destination movies, or even if you haven't, I'd love to hear your thoughts and rankings of the ones you have seen in the comments down below. If you like this video, if you like me, if you like and love this franchise, or even if you don't, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button and smash that subscribe button as well if you want a one-stop shop for action movies, comic book movies, and the occasional horror movie reviews. and rankings. And I will return next time when I see you again.